Scott, thanks for joining me on today's Spotlight. So it's Scott Mumford, CEO of Go Global. Scott, over to you. Introduce us to your business, please.
Thanks very much, Andy. Nice to be with you today. So I'm the CEO of a company called Go Global Communications. We are a worldwide provider of satellite ground segment infrastructure and services. So for those of you that know or don't know, they are the very large round antennas or dishes, as a lot of people call them, that you may see if you're driving through the countryside. They come in a wide variety of sizes and provide lots of different types of services. But the main one these days are internet services that are going internationally.
Right. So what would you say makes you stand out from the other people who are doing similar things?
Bizarrely, it's actually quite an underserved part of the industry. There's very few companies apart from the OEMs, the manufacturers of the hardware, that actually provide these as a service. Lots of companies tend to buy them directly from the manufacturers, then have the manufacturers fit and hand over a sort of working service. There are, like all industries, a variety of vendors in there. And obviously one of the problems with only being able to buy from the manufacturer is that you only get the exact services, the exact products that they provide. One of the sort of unique offerings about Go Global is that we are vendor agnostic. So we take a range of vendors, match and put that technology in the best system configuration to provide the turnkey service that the customer is looking for. So, we can take components from 1, 2, 5, 10 different vendors and make sure that actually the system that's required is 100% fit for purpose with no shortcomings or sort of limitations due to product specifications.
Okay, makes sense. Thank you. So the business then, where's it going next 5 years, let's say? What are the aspirations?
Yeah, that's always a great question. So the company's been running for about 12 years already. It's been relatively successful in terms of a number of key customers, and been relatively static. And through I guess a number of contributing factors, one of those being the huge advent of investment into the satellite industry as a whole through companies like SpaceX and with Starlink and Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos, and obviously it's created a lot of buzz around there. As a result, that investment is driving a demand for spacecraft, and spacecraft are only useful if you've got something on the ground that can talk to them. So rather than where I think our company is going to be, what I will say is the industry projections are that the ground segment infrastructure market is going to go from a $2 billion to $110 billion a year market in the next 10 years. So, if I can, with Go Global, secure 1% of 110 billion, I will be an extremely happy person. But it's like all these things, you're only as good as the services that you deliver. So, we're working very hard on the customer service and making sure that what we're doing and what we're delivering really stands us out above the manufacturer solutions that I mentioned a minute ago.
Exciting times.
It is exciting times. Really exciting times. I joined the satellite industry straight out of college. I was one of those, I guess, very fortunate people that fell into an industry that I actually had no idea about at the time. And much to my father's dismay, skipped going to university and went to work for a satellite communications company straight after finishing my A-levels, which he was not best pleased about, as I'm sure lots of people out there can imagine. And all I heard from day one in the satellite industry was, oh, it's a dying technology. Everybody's moving towards mobile and terrestrial and fiber optics, and and 15 years later, it was exactly the same thing, but the industry had continued to grow. And then, as I say, people like Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos got involved and started launching low Earth orbit satellites. And fortunately or unfortunately, depending on your view, the internet continued to grow at exponential rates, and the demand for that's increased, and satellites become a bigger and bigger element of that, and actually is now sort of right back at the forefront of it. So from continually being told throughout my career that it's a dying industry and dying technology, to being one that's had full shock treatment and is now back at the front of the pack is a lovely position to be in. So very, very exciting times in terms of what's coming.
Yeah, very cool. So plenty of learnings, I'm sure. What would you say your biggest learning is since you've been in heading up the business, Scott?
I think it's understand the value that you bring. It's very easy in business, and I come from a sort of a background in large corporations to get I guess stuck in the quagmire of a pricing argument. Everybody obviously wants value, but I think the key learning is understanding the value that you bring and being able to communicate that. If you're certainly in sort of telco and satellite industry, if you're arguing or selling on price, you're at a disadvantage and losing from day one, because the manufacturers are always going to be able to sell for less than you. The satellite operators are always going to be able to sell for less than you. You have to understand the value that you bring, and what that proposition is, and how to communicate that to your customer base. And that is, I can't even communicate how important that is. It's critical to the success of any business.
Yeah, agreed. What about challenges? What's the biggest challenge you've run into so far? How did you overcome it?
Yeah. So the challenges are unfortunately continuous and ever changing. So as I said, we operate globally. We've got teams located in Latin America, Central America, West Africa, Southern Africa, the Middle East, Asia, Australia. The biggest one operating on a global market is, predominantly the variation in regulation. Not just in terms of, imports, visas, but telecommunication regulation, frequency, spectrum allocation, and spectrum regulation. So it's a massive ongoing problem, and one that you would, or a lot of people would assume, is the same the world over. We all basically run our lives on mobile phones these days, and you go on holiday and you get off the plane and you turn your phone on and it works. And most people don't understand the nuances in the regulation just between countries in Europe, or so when you start to deal with Latin America and Africa, Central Africa, the regulation issues are huge. Overcoming them is really just a case of experience, understanding the technology, being able to provide the regulation, and having access to really good people that speak the local language and can communicate things. English is used predominantly as the language of engineering, and has a lot to do with it. But when you're trying to explain that in Spanish or Congolese French, or it really helps to have somebody locally that can help facilitate that. So I'm hoping that that's one of the things that's going to continue to get easier as more and more investment comes in and things become more and more prevalent around the world. But yeah, definitely regulation is my biggest headache.
Okay, fair enough. If we're sitting here, benefit of the knowledge you've got now, no regrets, so just new knowledge, and you're having a conversation with your 18-year-old self, the one who decided not to go to uni, and what would you do?
Yeah.
What would you say to yourself?
I would say, I think two things. Firstly, don't be afraid to make mistakes. You learn way more from the mistakes that you make in life than you do from the successes. It's very easy to look at something that's gone well and go, okay, that's great, I can do that again. You kind of gloss over it and move through. Knowledge and strength come from adversity and experience. So don't be afraid of making those mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing I would say is, I would have said to myself, go into your own business earlier. I had a great career in big corporate. Thoroughly enjoyed a huge amount of the time that I spent in there,
Mm-hmm.
and I learned a lot. But the freedom and I guess the responsibility of being responsible for my own decisions, my own actions, and where we're going as a business is one that's hugely exciting, hugely rewarding, and one that I'm really making the most of. So I probably would say to myself, go a little earlier than I have. But other than that, the mistakes is probably my biggest piece of advice is don't be afraid to make them. Just it's how you manage them that really shapes how you're going forward.
Not the first to say go earlier, actually. That's come up on a number of these interviews.
Yeah, I'm not surprised, Andy, to be honest. I think it's one of those things that if you're moving from a big corporate environment or have spent a lot of time in an industry, whatever that industry is, there's a degree of comfort that comes from that, and being blunt about it, the regular paychecks and the fact that it's someone else's money and that you've always got some sort of cushioning against those decisions
Yeah.
is something that we all become institutionalized to. But I think it's one that when you have made that leap and take that step and go into business either for yourself or with a partner or whatever your structure, the freedom that comes with that in terms of the mental freedom to be able to focus on what you need to focus on and what your strengths are, and trusting in the processes that you're putting in place and your business partners and what they're bringing, and knowing that you've got that covered, is a very big, and I know this sounds like a paradox, a very big weight lifted off your shoulders from the sort of corporate pressure. So I'm not surprised to hear that I'm not the first to say that.
Absolutely. Great. So if you had to isolate one piece of advice for the other business owning people watching this, what would it be?
Again, I think know your value, know what you do, and know that that's your strength. A piece of advice somebody else gave me, was with business as well, was that at some point something will come in that you don't think is within your realms of delivery, that you'll end up taking, and it will be a good thing. But you have to understand what your core strength and core objective is. I think as long as you keep that in focus and know that that's what you want to be doing, and that's really where you bring the skills, the experience, the knowledge, the value. You can diversify away from that either side, but you've got to stay on that tunnel. I think if you try to be all things to all people, you end up not doing any of them very well. You've got to, especially in this day and age with social media and as I say, the internet being what it is, your brand and the value of that brand is paramount to everything. You have to make sure that brand and what you do stands out above everything else. The noise or the diversification either side, it's great when they happen, but you have to stay true to your values and yourself.
Yeah, great advice. Thank you. So in terms of next steps, the best way to find out more about you, your business, and what you do, head to the website, which is below this video. Would that be right? Anything else to add to that, Scott?
Yeah. No, absolutely. Please visit our website if you'd like to know more about what we do. Obviously, you can contact us as well on info@goglobalcomms.com. Happy to provide information around that. There's lots of websites out there on satellite communications that are worth looking at. You'd be amazed exactly how big a part they play in everybody's life, from TV distribution to GPS to phone calls that you make. So yeah, it's take a look. You'll be surprised.
Great. Thank you for sharing your insights with us today, Scott. The best of luck in the 50 times growth that's coming in the next 10 years, and can't wait to see it happening.
Thanks, Andy. I really appreciate the time and the opportunity to speak with you today. So much appreciated.
Cheers. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks.